Let's get this thing fired up. Let's do it. Let's get started. Today we're going to talk about more ads and AI advertising. Again, we have Alex and Kevin in the room here to keep going. A lot of things on LinkedIn, a lot of client conversations about is AI taking over analysts' jobs, primarily Google Ads analysts, or is AI kind of replacing that entire industry? I actually had a client say, just before we walked in here, hey, I'm listening to Neil Patel's podcast about how AI is awesome and how it's helping with ads. And so I think what I want to do is play devil's advocate a little bit. And so your head's not spinning and always hearing AI is the greatest. Put a little bit of a counter on that and then maybe have Alex tell me I'm wrong because he's the smartest guy in the room. So here's what I've kind of heard, and this is where my honest pushback is with AI is for everyone. AI works at all levels. And it's like the vanilla fix for everything is AI. And I think if anybody just says that, I think they're selling you something. They're not actually looking at you, your niche, your industry, your brand, your keywords, your budget primarily is probably a big factor of how far do you need to go with AI and ad management. I'm not trying to fight for people's jobs here. I'm not trying to fight for AI here. I think there's a healthy mix, and I don't really have a huge dog in the fight. I think whatever wins, wins. But what I'm seeing is a lot of hype around AI, and I don't know that it's the magic pill that is being sold to everybody. So I wanted to dissect that, and I think the way to start that off, Alex, is for maybe you to help us talk about the way people are using AI. I mean, there's so many different ways, right? There's the download your keyword report, upload it to Gemini and ask it questions.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe the more entry-level way that people are doing it. I also think that when we talk about AI, there's like kind of the umbrella term that captures everything that maybe isn't exactly the case. There's AI Max, which I know the big thing in the news here these past couple of weeks in the paid search world was that Google is now, later this year, I believe it's in September, they're going to automatically upgrade your DSAs or dynamic search ads to AI Max, the latest model.
For everybody listening, explain what a DSA is.
So a DSA is basically when you would upload a set of descriptions, similar to how you would with an RSA or an expanded text ad back in the day. But then you would also provide Google with certain pages on your website that it could target, or you could say the entire website as a whole. And it would basically create dynamic ads. It would create headlines, match those up with your descriptions, and just dynamically target keywords based off the content of those landing pages that you allowed it to view. And AI Max is generally, I imagine Google is pitching it as kind of an evolution of a DSA ad, which is why they're now forcing you to upgrade up to the AI Max mode. And AI Max will create the ad copy itself. It'll do a lot of the same things that DSAs are doing, but then it will also allow those ads to be shown in the AI overview on the Google search engine results page in the AI overview.
Yeah. I think what we talked about in previous podcasts is sometimes people have ideas and they want to push a certain keyword over their URL structure in their website. And I think Google's kind of like forcing people a little bit. Maybe they're saying, why don't you just give us your website and we'll make an ad that works for your website, not for your spreadsheet. Makes total sense to us that you would want to have a good website that is backed and powered by a good keyword list, since you're going to have good conversion rates, but sometimes people miss the boat. And then, so what this tells me is if you're going to replace DSAs with AI Max and everybody has to go to AI Max, you better make sure that your landing pages in your website are buttoned up tight and good, because there's no more workarounds for, well, my website sucks, but go ahead and give me the good keyword list.
Yeah. And there's also, I think honestly, it's a lot of the same principles. If you weren't already working with DSAs, but you want to get into AI Max because you want to have the possibility for that visibility inside of the AIO, you want to apply a lot of the same principles. Depending on the structure of your website, you need to make sure that you have that final URL expansion really tightened up, or actually, turned off, and that your page feed is really solid. If you enable text customization inside of that, definitely make sure that you're reviewing the search terms report in that particular page that they've added for the AI Max terms. Make sure you're reviewing that very carefully, and that you have your term exclusions set really tight, and that you also have those phrase exclusions. That might be the wrong word for what they call it, but you can basically go in there and say, prompt it similar to how you would any other AI model, and say, okay, you don't mention these terms, don't mention this type of content that's on the page, to try and get as much control as you can over it. It's a lot of the same principles that you need to apply for any successful search campaign.
I think you already said kind of the entry-level AI world to ad management is looking at that terms report and maybe uploading it to Claude or some place and saying, how is my human doing? And now we're almost reversing that. Now we're going to export the AI Max search terms report, or are going to look at the PMax placements and stuff, and we're going to be the human auditor of what AI's choices are. Is that kind of flipping it around a little bit, you think?
I do. Yeah, I think honestly really flipping it around is getting an MCP connected from your Claude or whatever engine you'd like to use, connect that to your Google Ads so that you actually are viewing real-time data instead of taking the time to build out the export, upload it into Claude, actually have Claude read the data live if you have to prompt it that way, and then audit the results exactly how you said. I mean, similar to how you would if you had a manager viewing an analyst work. If you're onboarding somebody and you want to walk them through what to look for in the search terms report, what to avoid, what not to avoid, if there's anything you can actually add to the account, you do have to play a similar role when dealing with the AI, and it's always learning. It's a good idea to kind of prompt it and build up that knowledge base, and maybe even give it some pointers the same way you would a human. Beyond just the numbers, I think, is the big thing. Like just today I was working inside of Claude, and it had conflated impressions I was looking at a merchant center feed, looking at particular brands and their impressions, but then I was also using that list to compare with a product list, and it had conflated impressions with overall products in the group. And it's like, okay, that's not the case. You still have to have that element of making sure that it's reading the data the same way that you are, and making sense of it much the same way you would a human.
Yeah. I think I heard once somebody say, if you put an AI agent to work, they're the pilot, they're not the airline, and we're trying to run multiple pilots, trying to run a business here. And if AI is the pilot and we're running the airline, and the pilot's deviating off course and making decisions unilaterally without actually kind of checking back with the boss and going, is this the right way? You have an AI agent that's doing its job, and it might not be actually producing the best paid results or advertising results. A couple of ways that works. It's based on success of a conversion rate that's providing low quality leads or spammy leads or something like that. And you're like, I don't want quantity over quality. I want quality. And so sometimes it'll make a poor decision because it thinks it's making the right decision.
Yeah. And that's a good thing to think about, especially when we talk about certain campaigns or Google Ads accounts that should be using AI tools like Performance Max or other campaign types like that. It really does depend on the signals that you're providing AI. If you have a conversion event that you're optimizing for in your PMax, that's basically anytime somebody clicks the form. If you have form start, the Google Analytics event marked as a primary event inside of your Google Ads account, and you're telling Performance Max, hey, every time somebody just starts the form, that's $100 worth of value. You better believe the AI is going to start optimizing for that event versus the form submit. If your values aren't lined up the right way, if you're just not, it will go off the rails if you're giving it the wrong signals and showing.
If you put garbage in, you'll get garbage out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're using an MCP, a CRM connector, or just, again, pulling data out into a spreadsheet. If you're not looking at it and managing it and giving it a monthly audit to understand what it's actually making decisions on, or at least how it's pivoting itself over time, you're going to potentially run yourself into on paper I look great, but in reality it's buying keywords or giving me clicks or conversions that are not turning into revenue. So you don't want to put garbage into an AI, you'll get garbage back out. Yeah. The other way that can kind of rear its ugly head, again, I'm all for AI. I'm going to bash AI a little bit today, but I think there's a lot of positives, and we'll get to those. But one more thing I've seen is, like, some brands are very sensitive. Lawyers, doctors, some of those industries where you cannot just say it the way you want to say it. You have to say it in a certain way, or maybe you have a sponsorship agreement or a partner with somebody that you can't just use every tool at your disposal. Even though you want to say it this way, you can't. We're working on like FIFA World Cup stuff. You can't say FIFA World Cup. Olympics is the same way. Influencers kind of have things they can and can't do. So if AI goes a little bit too far and gets you into hot water or legal trouble because, well, if I say this, it'll convert better. That's great, AI, but you just landed me a lawsuit because you took it too far.
Yeah. Or, I mean, something, I know we kind of brought this up earlier, but what I've seen just a ton of times is branded terms or something like that, where they just immediately gobbles up and it says, okay, well, we can convert on this, no problem.
AI is no different than humans. I've seen a lot of humans do that same trick. Look how great I am at my job.
Yeah.
I bid on brand. You're welcome. Let me spend half your budget on your brand.
On the brand, then those terms that you own organically. Yeah, that's a tough one.
I love scar tissue there. So we talked about garbage in gets garbage out. We talked about entry level. Talked about maybe leveling up a little bit and maybe connecting CRMs and MCPs. And if you're, a nerd's nerd, you can get way into those weeds. The other way, and this is kind of the main thing that I think falls into my lap all the time, is how is AI going to optimize with a very small subset of data or a very small budget? Or, hey, we're just getting off the ground. We don't have data. The big boys of the world, the enterprise systems, the Fortune 100s, and the people that talk on their podcasts about AI usually are not saying this is for big boys who spend 20, 30, 100 grand a month in advertising. That's data. And AI succeeds when it has data.
Huge subset of data. Yeah.
It can optimize around data. If you're only getting 5 conversions a month and it has to convert or it has to optimize around a very small subset of B2B data that you just don't have it, doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. It just means that you're in a small market with a very, you're kind of a needle in the haystack, a Google ad campaign. Maybe AI, or at least the investment and the costs and the time to go in those roads are not as important to you. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying but maybe you do the entry level stuff first. Maybe you don't go, I'm just going to give my ad campaign to AI and see what happens.
Yeah. And I think that's something interesting to think about too, is like when we say like give my ad campaign over to AI, in my mind, that means AI max or performance max. If you're looking at 5 conversions a month, lead quality wise, I would start out with, like you mentioned, the entry level. Let's do some paid search. Let's do some, bottom of the funnel, really high targeted stuff, but then also incorporate AI into the process of getting those started. We use AI to help out with ad copy generation, helping out with keywords, competitor research, really digging into the weeds in that campaign setup. We leverage AI consistently to help us find out any blind spots that we have and really speed up the process as well, so we can get into the things that I love to dive into, the real meat and potatoes of each campaign and competitor research beforehand.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's great at all onboarding aspects of research and building and processes and making sure that you don't misspell something or whatever. It can definitely help and do a lot of those blocking and tackling things. And then, you can sprinkle on a few AI rules. I think, like some math, some algorithms can go into budgeting and making sure that you don't overspend on a keyword, things like that. That's not really, I think that's probably like the entry to mid tier. It's not going to make a lot of decisions based on that. That's just going to be, hey, we're going to get out the door on the right foot and we're going to use best practices. But if you start looking at your ad campaign and it's a small budget and you're only getting a couple thousand impressions and you're a couple of clicks, couple of conversions, you're starving out your AI agent. It's going to want to do things like optimize to CTR because maybe that's all it can do. It can't really convert. And you don't want to give it bad information, but you're starving it for information, and it's just not going to be able to make decisions that I think humans can just be like, yeah, I know it's a small campaign, but I think this is common sense wins here, not AI wins here.
Yeah, you need to layer that measure of control on top of it so that you can start feeding the right data back in. I mean, we do that consistently, even outside of typical AI kind of ideas. we'll layer a lot of bid adjustments on top of that. You might start on max clicks because you're on a fresh account that doesn't have a lot of conversion history there. But you want to layer in those bid adjustments so that you can start feeding the engine the right kind of data. And then when you switch it over to maximize conversions, okay, we know what we're doing. When we let the AI adjust our bid adjustments, as you have to enable when you turn on maximize conversions or maximize conversion value, you've already fed it the right data so that the AI can make the correct choices there.
I'm going to ask you one more question, then we can kind of wrap up here. Let's say you are like, yeah, I know I have a small campaign. I want to ramp it up. I want to get bigger. But everybody starts at the zero data level because day one is day one. I don't have anything. What do I do? How do I get started so I can ramp into AI maybe 6 months or a year down the road? I have enough data. I have enough consistency. My ad's performing well. I'm making money. Where do I start today to get to the end road? Is it out of the box PMax, let's go, AI Max? Or is it, let me start with a phrase match campaign and work my way into it? What, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but I'm kind of curious what your recipe for success is.
Yeah, I don't think there's a out of the box, this is going to work for everybody kind of answer, because
everybody take a drink. Alex says it depends.
It's the first it depends. I think what I would say right out of the bat is just get the foundations right. And what I mean by that, in particular, when I think about the context signals that you need to feed AI, like if we're talking, we've mentioned like B2B before, something that I think everybody needs to do that I know not everyone is doing is feeding your CRM data back into Google Ads and providing a lot of those different signals. If you have a great sales cycle of taking, a lead goes from marketing captured to marketing qualified based on certain values, if they have a certain engagement score, whatever the case may be, you want to feed that data back to Google and say, okay, this person with our enhanced conversions for leads set up, Google knows that this person that we brought in HubSpot is tracked back with this click ID or this tracking template, what have you. And you're able to tell Google that this person went from marketing captured to marketing qualified, and then they went from marketing qualified to SQL to opportunity or opportunity to customer, whatever that may be. You're feeding that data back into Google much further than just, hey, we got a form submission, and each form submission is worth $100. You can say, okay, a marketing qualified lead on average is worth $750. And that also goes back into the business planning aspect of it. You really should know, if we get people to this kind of stage, what kind of value they should be. And I know that isn't realistic for every business, but I think having those kind of values and that kind of data to feed back in there, if you're starting off with this paid search campaign, because you want to develop that kind of data so that your eventual PMax campaign down the road, 6 months from now, when you've run these 4 successful search campaigns based on these different aspects of your business, that you can kind of feed that data back in there, because the ads account and the algorithm has a solid idea of what kind of characteristics of a customer lead to that conversion for your business. Who should we be targeting? You need to feed that data to Google first, because if you just go out there with a keyword list and a couple of ads, it's going to take a lot of trial and error to figure that out. And if you're not feeding that really rich customer data back into it, it's going to be really hard to optimize for.
And that takes time. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons it takes time is because a lot of times people like to put the conversion pixel, or, hey, we're going to use Google Analytics and we're going to track a thank you page, or we're going to use phone call tracking and we're going to track a phone call. And we'll put that into a CRM if it becomes a MQL, but we're not going to rush right in and put it into our list of contacts until it gets vetted by sales or something like that, mm-hmm. right? So your operations downstream can also impact your ads upstream. One of the things, and I think I hear you loud and clear, Alex, and if anybody's listening, one of the biggest jobs I think in the next 2 or 3 years with this AI overlay on everything is, before you can really use an AI employee or an AI agent to make things better, you're going to have to make sure that you're not giving out garbage.
Yeah.
The data has to be great. Mm-hmm. So you need to be looking at becoming a HubSpot. Maybe we shouldn't put any brands out there, but becoming maybe like a marketing automation platform expert, mm-hmm. where you can work across the board and go, I know how to do this with 5 or 6 different marketing automation platforms. I don't care if it's Pardot, Salesforce, iLevel, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. At least know the the road you want to take and know that UTMs are not everything, because that is a big part of it.
Yep.
If I have a 30 or 60 or 90 day cookie, I get attribution for 90 days. But it's how many businesses do we work with? Where they're like, yep, this is like a 6 to 8 month sales cycle. This is B2B. These are $1 million contracts.
Mm-hmm.
It will take a year before we see a lead in January become a client or customer in December, because these decisions are not made in 90 days. They're made in quarters and years.
And it takes being a full stack marketer of understanding that whole entire process to get that system to work out in Google Ads. I really honestly believe that you need to have that knowledge. And like you said, you don't have to be the wizard with one particular platform. I think if you have a working knowledge of how to operate within a CRM, but combining that knowledge with knowing how to operate inside of Merchant Center and how to feed all of that data back into analytics so that you can put it in a good, all of those steps are really important. And then you also have to be proficient with the actual AI platforms themselves. I know we had talked way back when about,
I was going to say, I don't have to be. Truth be told, I can ask AI.
And just do it that way.
I know what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I know A and I know Z, and I ask Claude, hey, in this platform, whatever Zoho system we're using today, whatever it is, remind me, tell me, what do I need to do?
How do I do that?
Where do I put what's the JavaScript code? Where do I put it? How do I trigger it? Where does it live inside the platform? Is it under settings, or is it under SEO, or is it, where do they hide this tracking that I need to, and then how do I make UTMs work? And then how do I make sure that it sticks and it's the original source, and it's never forgotten? If they come back 6-7 times on the website to convert, finally they converted 6 months down the road, Google Ads isn't going to give you credit for that because it was 6 months ago.
Yep.
I think GCL IDs are great, and I love Google Analytics tracking for what it is, but it isn't going to remember that far back.
Nope. Not going to get it done.
So if you really want to get full attribution, you got to go back, and that's one more way to use AI. AI, again, great for building, great for processes, great for making sure you get out the door on the right foot. Use it, love it, and definitely use your CRM in a better way than what you're using it now. And if you don't have a CRM by now, I'm not even going to call them CRMs, marketing automation platforms. If you don't have a full stack to where you can do some stuff with your ads and really do it right, there's a job for you there if you're looking at getting into digital marketing, and there's people you can outsource that to if you're a business owner to get it done right. Don't spend more money on just chasing impressions and clicks.
Yeah.
Did we ever answer the original question?
Probably not.
The PMAX versus starting a phrase match campaign to get started. Yeah. What's your 6-month roadmap?
To answer that question, I don't think you should just run a PMAX campaign right out of the gate. You need to do a lot of that foundation level stuff first to really have that work, because with those performance max campaigns, you have to run either maximize conversions or maximize conversion value. If you don't have the right kind of conversion actions in there, and you try and run on maximize conversion or maximize conversion value, you can get into the same boat that we talked about earlier, where your results are a lot of form starts that have the same value as your form submissions, or it's optimizing just for that form start conversion because it knows it can get it a heck of a lot easier than the form submit event. You need to have those foundation levels set, and then even beyond that, if you have all of that figured out, if you hand it over to the PMAX, you're going to need to monitor that a lot more closely than you probably would with a paid search campaign that's just set to phrase match. So it really depends on the level of commitment that you're going to be able to do that. For whatever reason, in my head, I'm imagining this scenario as the business owner running it. And in that context, I would say you should absolutely work on a paid search campaign before you would jump over into Performance Max.
Okay. That's a good answer. I'm kind of surprised. I thought you'd be like, no, just go out and just go nuts with it. But
I think PMAX campaigns are great for what they are, but I think you need to have a lot more of a close eye on it. But once you get it running, it's fantastic. But we've had to do a lot of legwork on those campaigns to make sure that they're set up in the right way. And once that's done, like I said, they're fantastic. I mean, we have clients that are either just running PMAX or running PMAX with maybe one other campaign type, a shopping campaign running alongside it, for example. And seeing a lot of great success. But if you're a business owner just getting started, or you're starting from that square one, like we've talked about with zero conversion data behind it, I would say that I would still start out with a paid search campaign where you have a lot of really good control over it.
All right. I think we're in agreement. To put a bow on this, Alex, thank you. Appreciate your time again.
Thank you.
AI, is it for everybody in paid media and advertising? Yes, asterisk. It is for everyone. AI is great for execution. Keyword research, building grunt work, processes, creative, putting in a couple of rough math equations so it doesn't go off the rails. Is AI set it and forget it? Absolutely not. Is AI great at strategy and looking at the bigger picture? Absolutely not. It only knows the data that you give it. And if you give it garbage data, you're going to get garbage performance. If you have good data, you'll have a better AI machine. At low volume, B2B levels, we're only getting a couple conversions and they take, a long time. You should use AI to help build the system, but also know that humans are going to probably be the better strategy. And AI is really good at, like, if your ad campaign is, I want to get an ad in front of anybody who's looking to buy a pair of shoes, AI is going to crush it. If your ad campaign is, I only want to talk to CFOs who are in Fortune 500s west of the Mississippi, AI is going to be like, probably have a human on that one, probably be better, because that's going to be kind of a niche within a niche within a niche, and you're going to have some guardrails and some things you want to say a certain way, and people you want to go after that are going to be more receptive to things that I don't know exactly what you're doing, but I'll try to help you as much as I can. It'll be a good assistant, but it won't be. You'll be the airline. It'll be the pilot, and it'll help you drive and fly around a little bit. I think that's a pretty good recap. So thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. Bye.